Whoa.
What is going on, everybody? And welcome. Ozzy's happy. And welcome back to the Thursday Stokastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by BetMGM. I am your host, Josh Harris. Joining me, as always, the hat trick picker, Slim Cliffy. First time this year we got a hat trick pick, correct?
Yeah, I think I know it's at least the first one for me. There's a lot of games where the guys didn't even register a point, let alone 2 goals, let alone 3. Yeah, we got Mark Scheifele's hat trick in the last game. We'll talk about Winnipeg a little bit later, but there's something going on with the Jets, man. I mean, it's more than just Hellebuck. Like, the top 6 playing legitimately well. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. I didn't play last night. I was doing a lot of Christmas stuff, watched a movie, had the Habs game on in the background. How'd you do last night?
I copied and pasted. Then I realized what I did, and I fixed it. It's snowing outside, so I might be a little in and out. Yeah, I'm in and out. I saw everyone freeze there, but I didn't do too great. I had a lineup actually that finished 20th that got blocked by 2 different trains. I would have, if they just entered that lineup once, I would have finished 6th in the 5 and probably broken even. Returned about 75%, which is a good night in MME. So these dogs are going nuts. Avery's going nuts. It's snowing. We have a 12-game slate. He just power bombed the dog off the couch. We are living the dream. And I'm frozen.
I can still hear you a little bit. I'll just jump in real quick. We do have 2 super chats that we have to get to. We'll get to the first one, Mr. S. Goodman saying Merry Early Christmas to everyone at Stokastic except Lindy. The rivalry keeps on going. We'll show. I don't think I have the Lindy card anymore. Oh, I do. We'll show Lindy's face a little bit later on again in the show. But we do have to shout out Provius. $50 super chat from Provius. Let hope live on for the little guy. Darts sometimes do stick. Couldn't have done it without you guys. What he is referencing was his 10K takedown back on Tuesday night. It was a really big hit for him. I think it was about $250 in entries with over 10K back. So obviously a monster night for Provius. He was a guy that's, he's been in the Discord. He asked both of us questions, asked everybody questions, been trying to refine his game. And it's really nice to see him finally get rewarded. So congrats to you, Provius. And happy early Christmas present.
Yeah, congrats to you. And Lindy, just hit your caps locks key. Stop yelling at everybody. Just stop. It's fine. But congrats to you, Provius. That is an awesome win. We were up sweating with you, I think. All these nights I'm up way too late. Listening to Hoff asking me if it's safe to cook a ribeye in a catering tray. This is the stuff we deal with. Yeah, the dog's upset about it.
Yeah, even the dog's mad about the whole catering tray and cooking food in it. But yeah, the sweats go on until the morning. Tonight might be a little bit different because I think the latest game starts at 9 Eastern. So hopefully we get a little bit more of a rest here tonight. But lots of games to get to. Pretty excited about this slate. I think there's some pretty good spots to talk about.
Yeah, and it's a nice little late night hammer. The only late game is Edmonton at St. Louis. But let's get into the slate. But before we do, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, very important. So you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Don't forget, almost all of our content is available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. M. Haas with a $1.99 super chat. Do you like Phil Collins? I like Phil more than I like when you ask me questions about cooking. But thank you very much for this super chat, and we need to get into this slate because we have a show on right after us, and we have 12 games. So we have to get cooking, not in a catering tray. Los Angeles Kings with a 2.5 total into Boston. The Bruins have a 3.6 total. John Quick, Linus Ullmark are probable. Boston mixed up their lines again. They moved Pastrnak down to the second line, bringing DeBrusk back up onto the top line. This would have been a spot where I had a lot of interest in the old Boston one. I still have interest in Boston one. If you look at their ownership percentages right now, it is still very low. The Kings have a brutal penalty kill. They're not very good on defense either. So this is a very nice Bruins game for me, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I did have a little bit more interest when Bergeron and Marchand were on a line with Pastrnak. That's what I wrote up in my picks article. Click submit, and then about a few seconds later, I see the tweet in our chat in our Discord about Pastrnak being moved down. But like, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't think like he's been playing on the second line most of this season, right? And look at what he's done. One thing that I brought up in that picks article is he has, I think, 7 points in his last 6 games, including 5 goals, if I'm not mistaken, averaging 5.7 shots per game. And that's a downturn for him. Like, that's him slowing down. Like, he's still tearing apart the competition. So I still have interest in the old Boston one, Pastrnak, Bergeron, Marchand. Now, I get, like, if you move the Brust there instead of Pastrnak, you get to save a lot of money. But one thing that you do kind of want to focus on in this matchup is the Los Angeles Kings penalty kill. Like, right around bottom 10 in shots against per 60 minutes on the PK over the last month, near the bottom of the league in goals against. We just saw this team get absolutely shredded by Buffalo in about 20 minutes. So, like, the Boston top guys are definitely very much in play for me. If you don't want to full stack anything because you don't want to pay up super expensive, I think, David Pastrnak obviously makes a great one-off here tonight. So I do like the Boston side. I don't like Zacha, Krejci, and Pastrnak as a trio. Like, Zacha is more of a defensive guy. Krejci's fine, but he's not the guy that he was, 5-6 years ago, quite obviously. So I don't think I'd be into full stacking, Boston 2 and just not going in on Marchand and Bergeron. I think if I attack this game 1 of 2 ways from the Boston side, it's either just using Pastrnak by himself or Pastrnak with one of Marchand and Bergeron, if not both of them. You want to take advantage of that bad Los Angeles penalty kill. Boston's among the top teams in the league in drawing power plays per game. So to me, this is about the Boston guys. I don't have any interest on the Kings side. We don't even know if Victor Arvidsson's back. Like, I'm assuming he is because he missed the last game to go home for the birth of his child. I'm assuming he just came back the next day. We don't know. I haven't seen any beat writers talk about it. Not like it really matters. We avoid matchups going into Boston. I know the Islanders scored 3 goals in the last game, but unless you one-offed Josh Bailey, it probably wasn't a big success stacking the Island or going with the Islanders. So nothing from the Kings, just attacking just using the main Boston guys here tonight.
Yeah, and like, my head is an egg shape, but I agree with you. I'm out on the Kings. Like, if you want to one-off a guy here and there, like if it gets into your lineup, like they're not even that cheap. So, like, I'm probably just out on the Kings altogether. Let's move to the blue line. Hampus Lindholm is questionable tonight. He didn't skate this morning. I don't think that has massive impact on the blue line. Like, Charlie McAvoy is the go-to there. If Lindholm's out, that probably bumps up Carlo in some minutes, Forbort in some minutes. Those are punt guys, but like, McAvoy's the guy. On the Kings side, there just isn't much there.
Yeah, I agree with the Kings. Just not a whole lot for me. You need them to produce points, I think, to really generate some value. Like, maybe Dursey can get there on peripherals, but you need points, and I don't think we're expecting a lot here. Forbort might be one of the min punts for me if Lindholm is out. They're both left-hand shots. I know lefty-righty doesn't matter as much to some coaches anymore. But Forbort is the left-hand shot that might get 2 or 3 more minutes if Lindholm is out. So he might be a min-price guy depending what we see at warm-ups.
Yep. On to the next one. Anaheim Ducks with a 2.8 total. Heading into Montreal, the Canadiens have a 3.3. Lucas Dostal's confirmed. Jake Allen probable. Montreal's on a back-to-back. They got blown out of the building. I mean, it was a 3-2 game, but like it wasn't as close as the score indicated. Probably not much from Montreal. Like they do have a 3.3. If anything, I just go straight back to the top line in MME. The problem I'm having here with the Ducks is we just don't know the lines. If, like Henrique, Zegras, and Terry together, I might have some interest. If they are broken up and Maxime with Mason McTavish, don't mind that 2-man for cheap power play, 2-man to let you fit in the more expensive power play stuff. But like, that's just all conjecture. We have no idea what the lines are. We won't know until warmups. In a nutshell, like I have some interest in the Ducks. I just don't know what the lines are.
Yeah, I think whatever line Troy Terry is on is probably the line that I would gravitate to from the Ducks. He's a guy from a lot of different metrics that we kind of look at. One that I do look at is scoring chance contributions. It's individual scoring chances plus, assisting on teammates. Like Terry, he's not having a great season, but it's certainly a good one. And he seems like, the engine of the offense, maybe as much, if not more than Zegras. If he's playing with Frank Vetrano again, that would be kind of a duo that I would have some interest in. Like Frank Vetrano has been shooting a lot. Like he's at 3 shots per game over his last 10 games. A big problem of his is not having a good shooting percentage. He's shooting under 5% on the season. Maybe Terry can help out a little bit in that regard. Montreal hasn't been awful defensively of late. Over the last few weeks, definitely not good. It's the goaltending that has kind of let them down. But, like you said, if Henry, Terry, and Zegras are together, that's a line that I would absolutely have interest in. If Terry and Vetrano are skating together, that's, a duo that I could play. But that would be getting kind of expensive. And at that point, it would be like, why not just go play Montreal 1, right? Because they're only coming in at like 2-3% owned. The Anaheim side's coming in roughly the same, maybe even a little bit higher. And the price difference really isn't that much. Like I think it's about $1,000 depending on who's playing with Terry and Zegras. So I think this is just a game where I would go to Montreal 1. Caulfield, Suzuki, and Doc, like we know they have trouble generating a lot of scoring chances, but they do set up some pretty quality ones. And this Ducks defense, it's just bad. It hasn't really gotten that much better through the season. It's just staying bad. So Montreal 1 is kind of one of those mid-price lines that I do have a lot of interest in here tonight. I'll also mention the Dvorak-Hoffman duo. I wrote up Christian Dvorak in the picks article today, available free to read over at Stokastic.com for anyone to check out. Sean Monahan was injured 5 games ago. In the 4 full games since, Dvorak's averaging over 20 minutes a game and has skated at least 20 minutes in 3 of the 4 of them. I think he has like 13 shots or something in those 4 games as well. Like I know he's not on the power play. Montreal's power play is terrible anyway. Like you're doing this for the 5-on-5 matchup. And Dvorak and Hoffman have actually had pretty good numbers in small sample together. And like as bad as Anaheim is defensively, at least like Zegras, Terry, and Henrique are somewhat passable. Once you get to like Strome and Vetrano, they're just awful. Like just amongst the worst in the league as a defensive line. So I don't even mind like a 2-man Dvorak Hoffman here, but I think it's Montreal 1 that I have the most interest in.
Yeah, Dvorak's always been a guy that I've liked, especially when he was in Arizona. But if he gets the minutes here, he's a guy that I look to play. On the blue line here, there just really isn't a defenseman that I want to play. Like Jonathan Kovacevic is min-price. Caden Goulet's kind of a little bit too expensive. Joel Edmondson's too expensive. I guess like Edmondson theoretically is fine. He's just kind of priced in no man's land. Jordan Harris, okay. They're like all these guys are okay, but nothing like jumping off the page. On the Duck side, Cam Fowler for the power play, Simone Benoit min-price. That's where, that's about it.
Yeah, Benoit played 21-30 in that blowout loss against Toronto and blocked 0 shots, which for a guy that's been blocking a lot of shots this year for, mediocre minutes, that was kind of a letdown. But yeah, he's a guy that you can use for a min punt. I think the Montreal guys are all just kind of priced, kind of in that no man's land range. So I'm just out a bit on Montreal here. Or at least off the defenseman. I think this game is about the forwards.
Yep. Let's move on to the next one. I kind of disconnected there for a second, but I think I'm back.
Yep, you're good.
Columbus. Okay. Columbus Blue Jackets with a 2.5 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning have a 4.1 total. Daniil Tarasov, Brian Elliott are confirmed. Like, if this was Vasilevsky in net, I'd probably say I'm out on the Blue Jackets. Maybe I'd have some like power play stuff. With Brian Elliott, it's a pretty far drop off. Like, I don't mind like a Roslovic Line 2-man or a Gaudreau Jenner 2-man, something like that. But this game's all about Tampa. They have a massive total and they don't have massive ownership.
Yeah, not seeing a lot of ownership on Tampa Bay. I'm going to bring up our top stacks tool here real quick. Right there, Kucherov, Point, Hagel, 8%, 8.1% top stack on DraftKings, 4.8% ownership. So obviously, I mean, Hagel is probably a guy that you can leave off, and I think that's why they're not coming in super high owned, is because he's really not doing a whole lot, even though he's getting some pretty prime placement. Like, point in 3 games, but no multi-point games. 6 shots in his last 5 games. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's out there. He's not awful production-wise, but he's not crushing it either. So Tampa Bay 1 is a line that I would have some interest in. I think you can leave off Hagel and just 2-man Point and Kucherov here. Tampa 2 is a line that's kind of interesting to me. They've been generating some good expected goals numbers over their last few games, like their last 80 minutes, 3 expected goals for, 4.7 actual goals for. In fact, both the top lines have really been scoring well, at least at 5.5 for Tampa of late. So I don't mind either of the Tampa lines. I think it's kind of a case like Boston where, you know, you can one-off Stamkos or you can one-off Kucherov, but if you're going to stack, I would probably go like a broken stack like Point, Kucherov, and Stamkos. You know, I think Stamkos is on like a 14-game point streak or something like that with 21 points in there. So like he's been doing pretty well for a long time. Yeah, the Columbus top line has been playing well with Gustav Nyquist there. I think they're kind of fine to use here because, you know, it's not like this line, you know, there's been times this year that line's been like 21K when Patrick Laine's been on it, right? Jenner, Gaudreau, Nyquist, 16,500. I think if you're playing MME, it would make some sense. You know, if you have 100 lineups, maybe have like 3 or 4 of them or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't think you have to get there in single entry, but I think there is something in multi-entry to look at on the Columbus side. They switched up the power plays. We should mention that as we get to the defenseman here. They switched up the power plays at morning skate today. They took Bjork off the power play, and they're going to be going with a 5-forward top power play unit. Roslovic and Laine both on the second line, both on the top power play. So, you know, I think even that makes a decent 2-man with how much Laine has been shooting, and him and Roslovic have been playing well together. So I think there's stuff, you know, in both top 6s to play. I just think single entry 3 max, you'd definitely be looking at the Tampa side more than Columbus.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's head to the blue line. Quick note there. Mikhail Sergachev is a game time decision. Did not skate this morning, although Victor Hedman's been on the top power play, and if you want to add him in this spot, that's fine. If Sergachev's out, that probably bumps up guys like Cole, Chernak, but nothing spectacular there. On the Columbus side, it's probably just Gavrikov or Goodbranson.
Yeah, I'll mention Peak because he's all the way down to 2,500, and you don't really need much more than shot block bonus from him to really have good value on DK. So he's a decent min punt guy, I think. If Sergachev's out, I don't mind Chernak. With Hedman, I was looking at the power play numbers. The top power play has roughly the equal amount of time with Hedman as they do Sergachev. And the top power play is generating 32 shot attempts and 3 goals fewer per 60 minutes with Hedman than they were with Sergachev. Like, there is a pretty good reason Sergachev was getting some run on the top power play. I don't know. It's not necessarily a great power play spot here. It's not like, you know, Columbus takes a ton of penalties. It's about league average. So you can include Hedman because his price is fine, but it's not one of those things that I would be running out to make sure that I jam in Hedman with my Tampa stacks to make sure I get full correlation. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah. I agree there. And I think, like, I don't know if I'd one off, like, his price is okay to one off. I think I would just include him with my Tampa stacks. We are sponsored by BetMGM. We can get you a risk-free bet up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Platinum for free. If your risk-free bet loses, a refund will be issued in site credit. All you got to do is create a free Stokastic membership, or if you have one, just log in, follow the steps with BetMGM, create a BetMGM Sportsbook account, which is easy enough. Deposit, make your bet. Your bet settles. You'll get an email from BetMGM with instructions for redeeming your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. The most important part, as always, is click the link in the description below for more details and to sign up. This is for new users only. This deal will not be around for much longer, so take advantage of it now. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3.2 total heading into Florida. The Panthers have a 3.3. Yari is probable. Sergei Bobrovsky is confirmed. Matthew Tkachuk, game time decision. Carter Verhaeghe, back. He skated on the top line with Barkov and Reinhart. I don't know if that changes if Tkachuk is back, if they go back to Tkachuk, Barkov, Reinhart, or they just leave Verhaeghe, Barkov and go with Tkachuk and move Reinhart down. But as it stands, it's Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart. With Bobrovsky in net, I think both top lines I'll be looking to play. I wouldn't game stack them against each other, but neither of these two lines are getting massive ownership, and they're both in pretty good spots.
Yeah, the Florida top line kind of bothers me. I posted some numbers in our Discord about Barkov this season when he's not been playing with Matt Tkachuk, and the numbers are very, very stark. With Tkachuk on his line, I'm talking about 5-on-5. The team generates 40 more shot attempts per 60 minutes than without him. The goal scoring is 75% lower without Tkachuk on Barkov's wing than with him. Barkov, at least at 5-on-5, hasn't really done a whole lot without Tkachuk beside him. And Pittsburgh has been playing pretty well of late. Certainly they've been on a not a big win streak, but a lot of wins over the last 13 or 14 games or something like that. The Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart line so far this season, 2.7 expected goals for in 90 minutes together. That's honestly nothing special. That's something you'd expect from a second line from Columbus or Anaheim or something like that, and not the top line from Florida. They just haven't been playing well. The second line hasn't been a whole lot greater. If Tkachuk is out, I don't think I have any interest in the Panthers forwards here. For me, it would probably be more on the Pittsburgh side, the Pittsburgh top line, 3.8 expected goals for in their last 130 minutes together. Rickard Rakell has 14 shots in his last 15 games. All 3 of them have been shooting a reasonable amount of late. Florida does take a lot of penalties, 3.8 times shorthanded per game. Amongst the most in the league. Pittsburgh's power play has been a little bit better over their last few games. I'd like to see it over a bigger sample, but at least it's been better. At least it's looked better. I think I like the Pittsburgh top line here tonight more than anything in this game. If Tkachuk is in, that might change my view on Florida, but we won't know until warm-up. So for now, it's just Pitt 1 or move along.
Yep. I think Florida 1 is fine. The Barkov numbers are a bit worrisome, but I guess I agree with you. Kind of got to wait for Tkachuk. Let's move to the blue line. Crystal Tang fine at 5,400 with some Pittsburgh there. Aaron Ekblad I think is fine, standalone, one-off. Other than that, Forsling's okay, but 5,300's kind of me, and the other prices just aren't great.
Yeah, with no Petrie, I have no problem with Letang. I know he hasn't really been producing nearly as well, but Florida's a high event team. We talked about all the penalties that they take, so it's a decent spot for Letang. He's also priced down quite a bit on FanDuel. I think he's only 5,600 on FD, so it makes a lot of sense to play him there. I think on the Florida side, I don't know, Mark Stahl again. He's probably going to play about 20 minutes with Gudas out, so I think that's another min punt guy that you can go to on the Panther side here.
Oh, yeah. It always feels great to click in Mark Stahl. Might do it, though. You could do worse for min price, honestly, than Mark Stahl because he's just on the ice for a third of the game. Philadelphia Flyers with a 2.3 total heading into New Jersey. The Devils have a 3.7. Carter Hart, Vitek Vanacek confirmed. Devils mixed up their lines, and they're going now Tomas Tatar, Nico Hischier with Fabian Zetterlund, Yegor Sharangovich, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, third line of Miles Morning-Wood, Eric Halla, and Dawson Mercer. Flyers lines, I think they're the same. Like, if they mixed up,
no, they're the same.
I wouldn't even know. Now, the line that we're off to a rolling start today. The line that caught my attention after they switched the lines was Sharangovich, Hughes, and Bratt, because last year that line played a lot and they had excellent numbers together. I would still imagine that Nico Hischier is going to take the top comp. Now, top comp in Philly is an oxymoron, so it doesn't really matter what the matchups are. So for me, the Hughes-Bratt line is where I'm concentrating.
Yeah, it is Hughes and Bratt. Tatar, Hischier, and Zetterlund did play well earlier this season. It's just I don't have a lot of confidence in that line staying together. I think, Jersey's they haven't been playing poorly, but they haven't been playing as well since their win streak ended, obviously, as they were through the first 20 games of the season or whatever it was. So it would be just going to Hughes and Bratt, maybe take advantage a little bit of the Flyers penalty kill, which this season has generally been kind of bad. It has been better of late, by shots against. They've been around the top 10 over the last few weeks. So Flyers have been better. I'll also mention over their last 15 games, the Flyers have the 10th best shots against mark at 5/5 in the league. And they're like 13th by expected goals against. Like, they're actually not playing that bad defensively for a while now. It feels scary, like, to just to completely avoid the Devils, but I worry about lineup combinations being switched often in games. So, I think it's a perfectly fine game where if you want to one-off Hughes or if you want to one-off, I think even Dawson Mercer's fine, even though he's a little bit expensive down on the third line. Certainly, we'll get to the defense, but Dougie Hamilton's fine. It's just I don't know if I'm going to full stack anything from the Devil side here. Prices are very reasonable. It is a high total, so like I wouldn't complain about anybody that wants to go and stack New Jersey. I just think this is a case where I center, like I always bring that. Well, not always. I brought it up on the last show. Hischier and Hughes, just use them as a double center. They're going to play all the minutes and all the important minutes if you're worried about line combinations. So it would be Sharangovich, Hughes, and Bratt that I have interest in. On the Flyers side, I'm getting a little bit tempted to play the Flyers because that Hayes-Cates Konechny line actually hasn't been bad. They've only played 70 minutes together, which isn't a lot. We're talking about like maybe 6 games worth of ice time. 2.3 expected goals for, 2 against. That's pretty good. I wrote about Travis Konechny at his website where I write about season-long fantasy hockey, and his market share for shots is like top 30 in the league. A ratio of shots he takes against shots that the team takes entirely when he's on the ice. He's also one of the leaders in scoring chance contributions that I brought up earlier in the show in the entire league, just flat out. He's been having an excellent, excellent season. Even Kevin Hayes has been shooting quite a bit of late. He has 23 shots in his last 5 games. I don't know, man. I'm not going to get to the Flyers top line in single entry, but they're at least like one-offing like Konechny or something like that is kind of piquing my interest a little bit. I would have some interest in the Flyers top line if I was playing like 50 lineups or 100 lineups or something here tonight. I'll say that much.
Yeah, if I was at my meeting tonight, I would probably have someone off Konechny. I don't know, like maybe a couple 2-mans with Hayes. That's probably about it.
Yeah, I would leave Noah Cates off those stacks. That's something I brought up on a show a long time ago. The guy, he plays a ton of minutes, but he's basically forward Mikey Anderson. His last 10 games, 19 minutes a game, he has 2 assists and 9 shots.
Yeah.
like, no, you can just leave him off in 2-man Hayes Konechny.
Yeah, that's probably where I would be as well. On to the blue line here. Cam York on the top power play unit, 3,300 is fine at that price. It's just fine. Like his peripherals, he's like on the ice a lot. His peripherals are almost non-existent in a small sample in the few games he's been up. Ivan Provorov at 4,800. It's okay. Travis Sanheim, 4,100. Dougie Hamilton, I think is fine as a one-off. You compare him with Hughes. You compare him with Heischer. That is fine. Otherwise, Ryan Graves. David Severson. Yeah.
Yeah, Graves is probably one of the guys, like his peripherals are still fine. He's not getting a ton of minutes, but he absolutely can score from the blue line. I think our buddy Yam Cork is min price over on FanDuel, the Stone Min. So he's probably one of those min price punts you can use over on FD. Other than that, not really a whole lot of interest in the Flyers blue line. Like Provorov, not that much more expensive than Sanheim. Sanheim, not that much more expensive than Ristolainen. And they're basically all kind of the same guy to me. So, not a lot.
Yep, agreed. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.1 total heading into New York. The Rangers have a 2.9 total. Matt Murray confirmed. Igor Shesterkin probable. Rangers sticking with the lines that they finished the last game with, which was Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Barclay Goodrow. The kids, Lafreniere, Hidal, Kakko together. Then Kreider, Trocheck, and Vesey. Hey. Panarin and Zibanejad don't historically have good numbers together. You throw Barclay Goodrow into that mix, and it's an absolute circus. I don't have too much interest in the Rangers here tonight, despite, Matt Murray not like after he was shaky, real shaky after that best game of all time per expected goals match, saved above expected metric. If anything on the Rangers side, it would probably be, either like Trocheck, Kreider, or, use the kids as a filler. But that top line, as it's constituted, I'm not a big fan of. On the Leafs side, like, not a huge fan of the Leafs tonight either. But like low-owned Matthews kind of makes me nervous, like low-owned McDavid does. And he's coming in projected at like 5%. Even if that's up around 10 for Matthews and that line comes in at like 5, I think you have to give some consideration to the Toronto top line here.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the numbers for that Rangers top line just in 105 minutes with Goodrow and Panarin this year, just the two of them. 2.5 expected goals for, 3.4 against. That's pretty bad. I wrote up the Toronto top line as a stack for the Power Plays article. What I mentioned was that when Panarin and Zibanejad have been on the ice over the last couple of years without Chris Kreider, hold on a sec. 2.7, sorry, my phone was ringing. 2.7 expected goals against, and only 38% of the expected goal share. They've just been getting run over whenever they've had anybody but Chris Kreider on the line with them. I don't think Barclay Goodrow is going to make that big of a difference. Now, the Rangers don't hard match, but, the kid line, I don't think that's a great matchup for Matthews either. Maybe Trocheck and Kreider can do something, but they're not going to be sent out 100% of the time against Matthews. I do like the Toronto top line as kind of one of those expensive stacks that's not going to be very highly owned here tonight. They're priced up with Colorado and Pittsburgh and those lines, not coming in with a ton of ownership. They're coming in with less ownership than the Penguins, less ownership than the Stars, less ownership than the Avs. I know facing Shesterkin is kind of scary, but if there's one thing that's where Shesterkin's been kind of weak this year, it's been on the penalty kill. And, the Toronto power play hasn't, been as forceful with Sandin there over Riley, but it's still been fine. And I think it's one of those matchups that could be kind of sneaky. So honestly, if I'm 3-man stacking anything in this game, it's the Toronto top line. On the Rangers side, I think it might be the kid line as a filler that I like the best. But when that's the case, I think it's the case where I probably won't be stacking a whole lot. Like, I think one off Hidal's fine or one off Lafreniere is fine. I just don't know if I'd full 3-man stack them here. So it's about where I am in this game.
Yeah, I am aggravated with the Rangers. So, it's not hard to make good lines with this team, yet Gerard Gallant finding a way. On the blue line here, Rasmus Sandin priced up to 4,500. I think that's a bit expensive for what he does. You can add him into some power play stacks or Toronto 1 stacks. That's fine. Justin Hull, 2,800. Keandre Miller, 3,200. That's really about it.
Yeah, Keandre Miller was the guy that I kind of have a little bit of interest in this game. He has been producing like just points a lot more this year than he was last year. So good on him. I guess Trouba's fine, but honestly, at this point, I think I'd rather just save the money and go down to Keandre Miller.
Yeah, Trouba's played like 20 plus minutes here and there, but sometimes he's down around 17, 18. So I don't want to risk it at his price to get one of those 17-minute games. If you are a new user, never have had a Stokastic NHL membership, we can get you a 3-day free trial. You got to click the link in the description below. That's the most important part. And you get full access to everything we have to offer for NHL. Ownership, top sacks, tools, rankings, everything you need, including the Discord, which is very important. Or last night, you can learn not to cook a ribeye in a catering tray. Either way, you get a 3-day risk-free trial. You get to test drive everything. So click the link in the description. There is 120 of you in this chat. Not all of you are Stokastic members. So click the link in the description. Get your 3-day free trial. Dallas Stars with a 3 total. Heading into Washington, the Capitals also have a 3 total. Jake Ottinger probable, Charlie Lindgren confirmed. This is kind of a tricky game here. Like I like the Dallas top line in a nutshell, but their numbers have kind of started to slide a little bit on both sides of the ice. Now, that's just a short sample. Maybe they, pick it back up and they absolutely run over the Capitals tonight, which is certainly possible. But, they're a little bit higher owned than some of these other top lines that I like. It's like the Strome Ovechkin Sheary line has actually been okay. Like, they haven't been awful defensively. Charlie Lindgren's actually been pretty good. Like, I don't know if I'm going to prioritize Dallas 1 here tonight. I think if I was MMing, they'd definitely be in my mix, and the same could be said for the Washington Capitals top line. So I feel like this is more of a MME type game.
Yeah, it's kind of figure out it's that's more good English by me. It's kind of tough. It's a tough day for both of us. It's kind of tough to figure out what's going to happen with the line matching here in this game, which I think is obviously important considering what the Dallas top line can do here, because there are some good defensive lines on the Washington side, and I think adding Anthony Mantha to that second line for the Caps could be a pretty good move for them. Him and Kuznetsov have been good together this year. Like the Caps have gone through their injuries, so they do have a reasonable sample together. 75 minutes together, 2.6 expected goals for, 3.2 actual goals for. Mantha's only been skating like 13 minutes a game of late, but he has 13 shots in his last 5 games, despite only playing like 13, 14 minutes. Maybe he can get a little bit of an ice time boost here. Go up against that Marchment, Seguin, Delandry line, which has been fine but not great by any stretch. I think in this situation, I'm looking for one-offs from the Washington side. Like, obviously, Ovechkin makes a fine one-off. Like, he's going to play so many minutes on the power play and with the empty net as he's chasing down that Gordie Howe record, right? So I think Ovechkin, again, makes sense as a one-off or a duo with him and Strome, because that Dallas does take their fair share of penalties here. On the Dallas side, I think the Dallas top line makes for an interesting stack, kind of in a nutshell. But the Caps, they've been one of the best teams on the penalty kill for a good little while now. Their last few weeks, I think like 12th in shots against, goals against, in the top 10. Like, their penalty kill has been very good. They don't take a ton of penalties, 2.9 times shorthanded per game. That's well below league average. So where Dallas really gets a lot of their value from the power play, I think there are just other spots that I can go to for my expensive lines. Like, you can go to Pittsburgh, you can go to Toronto, like we just talked about. You can go to Colorado, who we'll get to later. So that's kind of where I am here. Yep,
I agree with that. On the blue line here, I think John Carlson's fine at 7K. Like, it's expensive, but he's been very good all season. Orlov down under 4K, 3,700 on DraftKings, I think is fine. Nick Johnson, 2,900 if you need a little bit less. Esa Lindell would be the guy for me on the Dallas side.
Yeah, I think back to Lindell for me on the Dallas side here. He's had no problem racking up blocks of late. His price is still reasonable. Nick Jensen saw his price go down, even though his ice time stayed pretty much the same in the last couple of games with Orlov back. So don't mind Jensen if you need a sub 3K guy. But yeah, I think Lindell might be my favorite defenseman in this game.
Yep, I think he is too, if I'm not spending up for Carlson, which I usually don't spend over 7K for defensemen ever. So Esa Lindell. Seattle Kraken 2.5 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.4 total somehow. Well, I know why. Party Marty Jones confirmed for Seattle. Piotr Kuchi Kochetkov probable for the Hurricanes. Sebastian Aho still out. Jesper Fast should be back here tonight. That third line is our highest negative leverage line on the slate because they're almost min priced. They are 7,800 to full stack. They'll probably see top line. They'll probably match up top line against Wenberg, Burakovsky, Schwartz. They're fine in a nutshell, just getting way too much ownership. I think for me on the Carolina side, it would probably just be two manning Svechnikov, Netchus, and call it a day. On the Seattle side, I like in MME, if that McCann Beniers line got into my stacks organically, that's fine, but I don't think I'm going to be forcing them in.
Yeah, Svech, Stastny, and Natchez is kind of interesting for this reason. Like, I don't have a lot of faith in Paul Stastny, but Svech and Natchez had really good offensive numbers with Kotkaniemi. And, you know, we've talked about in the last couple shows how bad he's been offensively this year. So they can put up good numbers with Kotkaniemi. I mean, surely they can do it with Paul Stastny, right? So I agree with you. I don't think I three-man stack. Svech certainly makes a fine one-off. He hasn't been shooting that much lately. I think he's at 2.5 shots per game in his last 10, which is not exactly what you want to see. You don't really need a lot of shots against the Seattle goaltending. They're down there with the Kings, amongst the worst in the league. So I do like that top line. You know, I think the second line is fine, but Jarvis hasn't really been playing a lot of minutes. Teravainen really just hasn't looked good all season long, even before he was injured. So I think for me, it would be about the Carolina top line. I imagine people will be going to Carolina 3 to fit in those expensive stacks. You can do it. I think, honestly, considering ownership, I'd rather just use the second line and just like two-man Teravainen and Jarvis or something like that. On the Seattle side, you know, even without Aho, Carolina's still a pretty good defensive team. If anything, it'd be the Beniers line that I would go to. They've been playing pretty well of late. 2.9 expected goals for, 2.1 against in their last 100-plus minutes together. They'll avoid the shutdown line, I think, of Jordan Staal. Not that the other lines are going to be bad defensively, but you definitely want to get away from that one. So if anything on the Seattle side, it would be those guys. But honestly, I think the only thing I really like in this game is the Carolina top line, but more specifically, like one-offing Svechnikov or something like that. Yep,
I agree. I wouldn't full stack. Like, I guess you can if you're running, you know, like 4-3-1s into Fantasy Cruncher and you get Stastny, it's fine. But, you know, if I'm, you know, making a lineup, I probably would not include. If I was hand building a lineup, I probably would not include him. On the blue line here, Justin Schultz, game time decision or out? I think it's a game time decision. If he's out, Carson Soucy, Will Borgen at min price, we'll probably see a bump there. Adam Larson, 3,600 is also fine. On the Carolina side, Burns if you're spending up. If not, Brady Shea, Brett Pesci.
Yeah, Schultz doubtful. You know, this is another 7 Eastern start, so we'll know whether he's in or out. You know, Carson Soucy might be one of my probably my favorite mid punt on the slate if Schultz is out. So Soucy might be in play. Adam Larson, seeing his price come down, he's a guy that can get those blocks, maybe even donk and assist for you on DraftKings. So don't mind him for 3,600. Probably nothing from the Carolina side. Pesci's fine, but that's about it.
Nashville Predators 2.7 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 3.2 total. I have no idea what Nashville did with their power play units. I don't even want to talk about it, but I'll mention it. Top unit is now Forsberg, Nito Niederreiter, Cody Glass, Juuso Parsinen, and Roman Josi. Second unit is now Granlund, Duchesne, Colton Sissons, and Jordan Gross, which is gross. Also Matthias.com on that unit. If you're going to break up Forsberg and do Shane on the power play unit, I have no interest in really doing anything on the power play. Not that this is a very good power play matchup anyway. It does kind of mess up the Predators' top line for the correlation standpoint. Like, it kind of like if you want to use the Nashville top line, I think that's fine, but not super exciting there. I like the Winnipeg side here. If the Jets' top line of Perfidi, Scheifele, and Wheeler are going to come in, 2% like they are projected right now, they're my preferred line in this game. If you want to go to Connor, Dubois, Esimont, I think that's fine. But Scheifele, Wheeler is where I'm looking.
Yeah, it is not a good power play spot anyways for Nashville. Like you said, Winnipeg's only at 2.7 times shorthanded per game this season. That's not a lot. The league average is 3.3, so they're well below that. The Winnipeg penalty kill has generally been good this year. Connor Hellebuck has certainly been good. Nashville penalty kill itself has been better, but the goaltending keeps letting in goals, and they just got shredded by Edmonton. So not a terrible power play. Not like it's a fine power play spot for Winnipeg. It's the Winnipeg top line that I really like in this game. I'm not taking anything from the Nashville side. That top line for Nashville, 2.3 expected goals for, 2.7 against this season. Like, it's not like they're getting unlucky. They're just not playing well at all. So out on Nashville, for me, it's Winnipeg 1. They've been playing really, really well. 3.3 expected goals for, 3.9 actual goals for. Blake Wheeler at 3.3 shots per game over his last 10. I thought that guy was like just toast as an offensive force. Of course, Mark Scheifele hat trick in his last game. Until that Winnipeg top line starts declining in some manner, I'm going to keep playing them if they're going to be 16 to 17,000 on DraftKings. So I like Winnipeg 1 here. I think you're perfectly fine to do something like take out Perfidi and put in Connor, take out Perfidi, put in Dubois, something like that. It's still, like I said, still a good power play spot for Winnipeg, but it's the top, specifically the top power play guys for Winnipeg. Perfidi, if you just want a 3-man stack, then that's where I'm at in this one.
Yeah. Blake Wheeler definitely back on those Flintstone vitamins that we loved as a child. Roman Josi on the blue line, I think it's fine. Like if I'm going to do anything on the Predators game, on the Predator side, it would be Roman Josi at 8,500. Like he just plays unbelievable amounts of minutes, and he's a combo meal threat every time he steps on the ice. Josh Morrissey, like fine. Like you can include him. He's 5,800. It's fine. He's on the power play. He plays 25 minutes. Brennan Dillon, min price punt.
I give up on Morrissey.
Yeah, me too.
If people want to play, they just play him. He's already set a career high for assists, and it's still 10 games to Christmas. Like, I don't even know what's going on there. I'll mention Dante Fabro again. I know he hasn't hit the shot or block bonus, but he has 7 shots and 7 blocks in 3 games since all the defensemen got hurt. He's putting up good peripherals. He's got to get there eventually. Don't mind Fabro at 2,600.
He scored last game too, so shots are even going in. Haas excited. Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.7 total heading into Chicago. Blackhawks have a 2.7 total. Logan Thompson probable. Arvid Soderblom confirmed. Sam Lafferty still up on that top line there. I didn't see news about Eichel. They probably skated at the beginning of the show. Have you seen anything on Eichel?
There's been nothing from because I've been looking for Shea Theodore. I haven't seen anything on Vegas all day.
So there you go. Like, it's hard to. I mean, like. Paul Cotter being on the top power play compared to Eichel is kind of a big deal, but like that top line for Vegas is fully correlated and much cheaper without Eichel. So like I still don't mind going back to Vegas 1 here. They have a massive road total against the Hawks. You want to go to that second line, I think that's fine. If Jack Eichel's back, I'll have more interest in the Vegas top line. As it stands, I have interest in the Vegas top line. On the Hawks side, I guess like one-off Kane or two-manning him with Domi, but that's really about it.
Yeah, if anything, that's what I would do. Kane by himself, or like you said, 2-man with Domi. But I'm not going on the Chicago side. Like at this point, it's just like I'm doing it. It's not quite a bit, but it's almost like a bit that I'm just refusing to use Chicago. I wrote up Jonathan Marchessault for the Power Plays article. He's been shooting a lot. He has 57 shots in his last 15 games. That's almost 4 per game. 8 goals in those 15 games. He's been scoring as well. I think he has one of the strongest projections for his price or around his price point for any winger on both DraftKings and FanDuel per our projections tonight. So Marchessault, I think, makes a great one-off. If you want to two-man him with, like William Karlsson or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. It's a really good matchup going into Chicago. They've been a bad defensive team all year, and the goals against have just been getting worse and worse. So I don't know if I'm going to be going on the top line. I'm avoiding that Paul Cotter nonsense. For me, this game is about Vegas too, specifically Jonathan Marchessault.
Yeah, like Vegas won fully correlated and fine in a nutshell. If Eichel's back, I prefer the top line to the second line. Eichel out, second line for me, like most specifically Marchessault. I think I messed that up, but you know what I mean. On the blue line, if Shea Theodore is out, again, Daniil Miromanov jumped to the top power play over Ben Hutton. He's 2,700. Excellent play there. Assuming Shea is out again. Braden McNabb getting a little pricey at 4,500. I think it would be Miromanov or Haig. On the Blackhawks side, Jake McCabe or Connor Murphy really for blocks, but I don't think any Blackhawks are going to be in my lineup tonight.
Yeah, I think McNabb and Haig are basically interchangeable considering all the injuries, and Haig's $1,000 cheaper, so I just play him. But Miromanov for sure at his price, one of the nice, better projected, super cheap guys on the slate here tonight. Yeah, I think Connor Murphy is fine on the Chicago side, but I think this game is about the Vegas defenseman for me.
Yep, we got 2 games left, 7 minutes to do it. Buffalo Sabres, 2.8 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avalanche have a 3.7 total. I see just real quickly in our chat, Phil Lewis saying Eichel's out till Saturday and Theodore is out tonight. So there you go. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is probable. Alexander Georgiev was in the starter's crease this morning. He's probable as well. Evan Rodriguez returns tonight. I would imagine he goes to the third line. They don't want to mess with the Cogliano-Confer O'Connor line. Evan Rodriguez not on the top power play tonight, so kind of irrelevant for DFS at 4,500 on the third line. It's a little expensive. This is about Colorado 1. I think Colorado 2, even as a filler, is fine. Until Skinner comes back, I don't have too much interest in the Buffalo top line. And that second line is good as a filler, but Dylan Cousins up to 6K, that's getting a bit pricey for a filler.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with that line is that line's 13K now. They'll probably see quite a bit of Cogliano, Confer, and O'Connor, which has been a pretty good defensive line basically all season for the Avs, right? So not really super hyped about the Buffalo second line. Buffalo top line, I got to give Middlestat his due. He's a guy that I kind of dump all over, or have been quite a bit this season. He's looked fine on the top line, at least in the parts of the 2 games that I saw. I didn't watch much of that Buffalo Kings game when the Buffalo just scorched them in the third period. I shut it off basically after the first 10 minutes of the game, but they looked fine together. I think they're it's playable, but it's not like they're super cheap. 19-1 is a pretty steep price. The Florida top line, not that I'm a fan, is basically the exact same price. Dallas is only $1,000 more expensive. I think there are other options you can go to that may even come in with lower ownership than them that are just as good, if not better, at the same price. So not a huge fan of the Buffalo side for me here. For me, it's about the Colorado side. The power play has struggled without Nathan McKinnon, but it's weird because they were good last year without McKinnon in the games that he missed. So, maybe it's more missing Nazem Kadri. Honestly, he has pretty good power play impact. So, Buffalo's penalty kill has definitely been struggling. So maybe this is a good get right spot for that power play. So I do like the Colorado top line. Again, I think you're fine leaving off Lehkonen and putting in JT Compher if you want to save yourself a couple $1,000.
Compher, Jonfer, Romfer. I've been playing Compher a bunch lately and been rewarded, and it feels kind of nice. But on the blue lines here, Kel McCarr, this is a really good spot. Devin Tays actually scored the last game. Eric Johnson is fine. On the Buffalo side, I think it's Matthias Samuelsson if you're not paying up for Dahlin.
Yeah, Samuelsson. Owen Power's been putting up more peripherals over his last 5-6 games than he was earlier in the season, so maybe he's starting to kind of find himself. Don't mind him. He's probably going to play a lot of minutes again with the injuries that they have, 23-24, so he's fine. Yeah, I think it's probably Makar or really nothing for me other than Owen Power here or Samuelson. Samuelson's fine as well.
Yep. Let's get to that hammer in the late night. St. Louis Blues with a 2.9 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.7 total. Jordan Binnington probable. Stewie Skinner confirmed. I don't know what the Blues like. Rangers and the Blues, man, they love messing up their lines. They're going Sada, Ryu, Levo, which is probably going to be a decent defensive line. But then you got Buchnevich, Shen, Tarasenko, and then Barbashev, Thomas, Kyrou. That's just, I guess it has some offensive upside. They want to like spread out the offense over 3 lines, but defensively, they're just going to get like, I don't know. It's Christmas time. They're going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. What can you say about Edmonton here? Hyman's coming off a hat trick. McDavid had a 4-point night. Draisaitl had a 5-point night. And the price dropped $800. I don't know. Bennington couldn't stop a beach ball from the oak tree right now, so I like Edmonton tonight. Shocker.
Yeah, obviously it's the Edmonton top guys again. The one concern here is that St. Louis does have a very bad penalty kill. That's something we mention a lot at or near the bottom of the league, basically the entire season. It's that they don't take a lot of penalties. 2.2 times shorthanded per game is by far the lowest in the NHL. That's 1.1 fewer power plays per game than the league average. 1.7 fewer times shorthanded than Edmonton here tonight. And Edmonton's penalty kill has not been good this year either. Like, if you want to play Edmonton, like go right ahead. They're in play almost every slate. This one is absolutely no exception. Perfectly fine to use the Oilers here. I'm looking at the low, like 1-2% ownership on St. Louis. It's not like Edmonton's got great depth here. Like the Janmark, Nugent Hopkins, Yamamoto line has been fine, but I don't think they're going to be that great in the long term. Like Janmark's not a second liner. Yamamoto's not good defensively. Nugent Hopkins has been moved around a lot, particularly the wing, because he hasn't been able to carry a line on his own. I don't have a ton of faith in Buchnevich, Shen, Tarasenko. I really wish they'd leave Robert Thomas there and quit effing around with the lineups. But Buchnevich, Shen, Tarasenko is a line that I kind of have a little bit of interest in here. Like I said, the Oilers take a ton of penalties, 3.7 times shorthanded per game, bad penalty kill. Buchnevich is a point per game player so far this year. Braden Shen's typically good on the penalty kill. Now they're on different power play. They're on different power plays. But I just want to get as many power play guys as I can against Edmonton here. Like I said, I think Edmonton obviously is by far the top line is by far the best play here. But that second line of Buchnevich, Shen, and Tarasenko is kind of tickling my fancy a little bit here. I think maybe even just one off in like a Shen or Buchnevich is fine.
Yeah, I kind of do like the Blues tonight in a vacuum. Like the Edmonton Oilers more. We got to get out of here. But real quick, let's get some goalie picks.
Tristan Jarry, I wrote him up. Don't mind him for his price. Georgiev in Colorado or Allmark if you want to spend up a little bit. If you want to get cheap, Jake Allen at home for the Habs. On FanDuel, Vitek Vanacek's got a really nice price.
Yeah, I'll add in for a cheap punt, Arvid Soderblom, especially, Eichel, Theodore out. Yep. Could be ugly, but under 7K, you could see the shot bonus. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
My boy, Cole Caulfield. Let's go. We're in on the Habs tonight.
I talked about being a Leafs hater, and then I ragged on the Rangers, but Philip Hedl, hat trick season.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. We'll be back Saturday morning, short slate tomorrow. We got to get out of here. Thank you very much. Little rocky start there, but we'll be back Saturday morning stronger than ever with some energy drinks. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everyone.